hey there, folks. It is still your host, Kate Gaffney, shockingly, coming on to remind you, as you all know how this works, this is part 2 of 2 with the lovely Amie Enriquez. She is an actress who hails from really all over, but lives in Los Angeles now, and has a show, Lightweight, that has toured all over the world. And it's where she discusses ED stuff and recovery from ED. And just a heads up, for those of you that are in recovery yourselves or who have some pain points around this, we do not get into specific numbers or tips and tricks. So don't listen for it. You're not going to hear it. And so if those are pain points for you, or if that causes some turbulence in your own recovery, know that that won't happen on these episodes. However, we do get into some specifics. So I totally understand if this is another week where you need to step out, you need to sit out, you need to not listen. Totally get it. There's a ton of wisdom, a ton of experience, and a ton of recovery that does come into the conversation. But I totally get it if that is just a pain point and too much. I totally understand. Come back next week. You're welcome then too. But I just really appreciated how honest Amie was willing to be and how much time she gave me. That's just my favorite type of guest. So, Amie, thank you so much for sharing so honestly. Thank you for being on the show. Let's get on with part 2, where we learn about some of the wildest shit in 3 different extremely famous locations that I cannot believe she worked at. So here we go with part 2 with Amie Enriquez. Let's get on with the show. We are back. And now it is time. Okay, we're moving on to the entrees. Oh, I didn't even say, we hope you enjoyed your apps. Let's move on to the entrees after a quick break. Now we're back. And it's time to move on to the entrees. You were such an easy interview. I could talk to you for so many more hours. Okay. So now we always start the same way. We have the same order of questions. People get annoyed if I don't do it in the order that I made up, which I just appreciate for our loyal audience. Aww. What was the first job you've had ever where the government was taking taxes out of your money?
That was when I was probably 12 years old. I was a tween model.
Oh, wow.
I did catalog and print modeling and commercials every now and then when I lived in Florida. So that was the first time that I worked and paid taxes.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Wait, did you enjoy it, or was it something that your parents wanted you to do?
I loved it.
You did?
My mom kind of pushed me to get involved. I had told my parents that I wanted to be an actress when I was still living in New York when I was like 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I just was like, Mom, they're teaching commercial, like literally at my elementary school in New York, they were teaching like a commercial class at my, like as an extracurricular, like learn how to audition for commercials. And my older sister, we're not an industry family, but my older sister was a model when she was like a toddler. And she had actually been scouted, like I said, we live pretty close to New York City. And she had been scouted and she would audition for pilots. And she was a young reader, a very early reader. So she could like actually read and memorize scripts. And then she just hated it eventually. And my mom was like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to do it anymore.
That's amazing.
And then for me, I said to my mom that I wanted to be an actress. And she's like, okay, great. Take your class. That's fine. And when I was in 6th grade, I just like shut down. Wouldn't talk. Like I had no friends. I wouldn't talk to people. I was painfully shy. And even though I didn't have a ton of confidence or self-esteem as it were, going through puberty and I just like, I don't know. I think I was massively depressed in retrospect. Like in hindsight, looking back at it, I was like, oh, I was clinically very, very depressed. And my mother registered me for this local like talent competition and you had to like walk a little runway and pose and then do like a monologue. And she said, I think it'll help you come out of your shell. I think that you would like, this will help you. And so I did the contest and I won. And this is like a small little town in Stuart, Florida, but I won and it actually did give me confidence. I started talking again to people. Like I felt very good. And so what I won was like free photo, I don't know. They didn't even call it headshots back then for modeling. They were comp cards. So I got a photo shoot to do my comp cards and I learned, I got a free class about how to do your own hair and makeup. Again, I was 12 and an on-camera audition class and but I don't know, I just won a bunch of stuff. And so I took these classes and I really loved it. So I signed with this agency, and through them, I got connected with all these agencies in Miami, because as a model, you can have multiple representatives. And I worked a ton, and it totally helped me, like my self-esteem. I loved it. And my mom always said, she's like, you never have to do it if you don't want to. And I was like, no, I really, really like it. So we had a system. I had a beeper or a pager, whatever y'all call it, in middle school, and she would beep me with codes. And we had a code for like you booked the job, or you would have a code for you have a casting, and she would like text like the code and then the time she'd be picking me up from school. And she would like suddenly they'd call me over the intercom and be like, Amy, your mom is here to pick you up for your dentist appointment. And I was like, see ya, bitches.
These teeth are so clean.
Dentist appointment. And my mom would have my one outfit. I wore the same outfit to every casting call, or for modeling, they were called go-sees. And you would go and see the client. They would take a Polaroid and you'd be done. So my mom would bring me my outfit. I would change in the car. We would drive all the way to South Beach, Miami. And I would go to the go-see, and then we would drive 2 hours back. And I would usually do my homework in the car. And yeah. And then I started it took a year for me to book my first job. And then I started booking jobs pretty regularly. And I really, really loved it. And I made a ton of money.
But you did.
I paid for my own college. I felt very
independent and esteemed, and that's awesome.
Yes. And my mom wouldn't let me touch the money, but I was allowed to take $100 out of each paycheck to go shopping if I wanted to. And we didn't grow up with money at all. Like, my mom was a waitress, and I don't know what the hell my dad did. They're divorced, and so we never had money. Even when they were married, like, we had very little. And so it felt really good to be like, oh my God, there's a lot of money in the world to be made, and I've got a cut of it.
Turns out.
So yeah, it felt very cool. And to be like a tax-paying little kid.
Contributor society, playing into that 401k. Okay, so modeling was your very first. Were you also, I would imagine no, because you probably wouldn't have had time, but were you also like playing sports and doing other extracurriculars on top of?
Yeah, I was a swimmer. I don't know how. Honestly, I was like, did I do a ton of cocaine and didn't know it? How the fuck did I get through this? Was my mom sneaking cocaine into like my milk? Rise and shine. Yeah. Like, I was a competitive swimmer from age 5 to 18. Wow. I was always on a swim club or a swim team. And then by the time I was 15, I was working in a restaurant as a hostess. And yeah, I don't know how I had time for it. I guess really I didn't have castings every day.
But still, just even one a week with school and with extra, that's such a commitment.
I know.
God bless your mom for being able to help you get there to and fro.
I know, doing all that driving. She was so happy when I got my license. She's like,
She's like, get out of my car. Okay, so that was your first. How many customer service jobs have you had total?
Do we include modeling as customer service? Probably not.
It's interesting because I've included comedy, in my opinion, that is. So I would imagine, you are servicing
the camera.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's a no. Don't count it. Keep going.
I feel like it didn't feel like customer service to me. It felt very, I don't know. I guess you just have to take direct. It'd be like,
it's a bit of a power imbalance. It's kind of like taking a class, because they're like, stand here, do this. So it's not like you're not making tips, and your job isn't dependent upon an audience. I guess acting and comedy would be more customer service than modeling, because modeling is just the client and you.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, we're not going to count it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, then I've had 14.
Holy shit.
Customer service jobs that were not child modeling.
Okay. Care to elaborate? What were they?
Yeah. Do you want me to go in order?
Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh. Just like read it like a list.
Just read it like a list. She was prepared, y'all. We love a prepared guest. We love it.
I'm a perfectionist.
No, what?
I don't know if you know this about my behavior.
Me? I'm definitely not. I'm not. I didn't.
Pretty. I want to be your favorite guest ever. You're the most perfect guest, the easiest guest.
All of those things are true so far.
Oh my God, thank you.
Sorry, Rachel. Okay, keep going.
My first one was I was a hostess at Carrabba's Italian Grill. It's a chain.
I was gonna say, I think I know that name.
Yeah, sister restaurant to Outback Steakhouse.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it was like the place to eat in Stuart, Florida.
Okay,
it's not real
Stuart.
Italian. I'm a real Italian, and this shit was not Italian food.
Okay.
But I was a hostess there. You could start as a hostess at age 15 in Florida back in the 90s. I hosted there from age 15 until I graduated high school. So
You're a loyal one. You stick through it. Okay.
Real loyal one.
Okay. Why not graduate to serving? Why? Because hosting, you're not going to make as much money.
No, I think because I was still in high school and still on the swim team and doing like drama club, and I needed to like know like when that last table is sat, I get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Like I'm out.
That makes sense.
Except on weekends when I would stay and drink at the bar.
Yeah, before you're 21. Yes, I've done that too.
Age 16, I'm like, give me
beer,
give me a whiskey.
Whiskey date.
Two fingers of scotch. Man fingers, not my little teenage fingers.
My baby fingers that are illegally currently drinking. Okay, so you were at Carrabba's for 3 years.
Yes.
Or 4, I guess. 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 4 years. Okay.
And when I moved to New York for college, I lived with my aunt briefly. And right away, she's like, you got to get a job. So she drove me to the Gap in Katona, New York. I think it was Katona. And I worked there for like a few months. I hated it.
Wait, you know what I love about how the universe works is some of the funniest stories that were shared on the podcast were via your husband, who talked about his little, like what he dealt with at the Gap. I love that both of you have that in your history.
I know.
That is so sweet.
I know.
And didn't even know each other.
No,
I love it.
I know. Because I look at Ithamar's career and I'm like, you never even had to have a customer service job. You just, you came out of Second City, Chicago. You had managers like chomping at the bit for you. And you didn't have, he's like, I worked at the Gap and Krabby Dick's or Dick's Last Resort or whatever the heck.
He sure did.
I was like, oh, sorry. You worked at the Gap? Oh my God.
Oh, and he worked at the Gap on Michigan Avenue. He had to deal with a real specific clientele.
Oh gosh.
But this is about you. Okay, so the Gap in Katona, why did you hate it?
I just didn't like the people. I didn't like the people I worked with. It felt very cliquey. I liked working on the baby Gap side. I loved folding the little baby clothes because it was easy to fold.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I just found I just was like, oh my God, it's just so much more chill on the baby side. But this is when the Gap was like, the Gap.
Poppin'.
Yeah, like you wear the Gap, you are rich, you are stylish.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. It was just not I think after being in the restaurant industry for from age 15 to 18, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like serving people from their dressing rooms, and them being like, get me a size this in these pants. And I'm like, you get it. Like, I just really didn't enjoy. And I'm such a nice person. I was like, I don't want to help you. I don't want to help you. And this is the 90s. No, I'm sorry. It was 2000. So things were still very manual, and you're still typing and all all the returns. I was just like, these people are so entitled. Mm-hmm. I really, really hated it. I preferred being a hostess, even though I felt like you got really beat up as a hostess because you're the first face that people see coming into a restaurant.
And you're the one telling them there's a wait.
And then the servers are all mad at you because you gave so-and-so the good table.
Sure did.
And then I haven't been set. It's my turn in the rotation. And, and it was just like, I would rather do that than work at the Gap.
Wow, hostess over Gap. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It was not. There was also no alcohol.
Oh, well, I can't do that.
I'm like, wait a minute. We don't.
We don't co-drink in the middle of the day.
Weed afterwards. I did say I never did a recreational drug. I lied. Weed is the only one.
Does that even count, though?
I don't think so. Not today it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't
Not
now.
today it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't even do any THC today because I get total
Loopy.
psychosis.
Oh, yeah. It's not for me either.
I'm like, the walls are talking.
It's thank you for getting it. Yeah, panic, immediate panic. Just immediate panic. Yeah.
Spiral.
The name for me.
There's sounds happening.
No.
It's total pure paranoia. I'm like, not for me.
Yeah, no one talks about that. Everyone's talking about how it's the best thing ever. Oh, you're in California, you must smoke weed. No. I don't want to die.
No.
Like
2000s weed was way more chill. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell are they putting? It's cocaine weed.
I mean, mean, it's like you're on the moon. I'm not with it. And like, I'm sure the moon's great, but I'm not.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. So hostess over Gap. Okay. So you do Gap then. What's next?
And then I finally move into the city so that I'm not, school started. I got out there super early just to like adapt. And so school starts. I get a place of my own with a roommate from college. And I'm no longer doing the Gap anymore because I live in Queens now. And so I get a job as a hostess at Tavern on the Green.
Oh my God, you have so many stories.
Oh my God. So many. Tavern on the Green in 2000, like.
That's what Sex and the City shot there. I mean, that was the you couldn't get in there was a years long wait list.
Oh yeah. And there as a hostess, you have power.
Oh, you made money.
Oh my God.
Because don't they give you a little tip, the handshake tip? Did you get handshake money?
Yes, I did. I got handshake money. It was the best.
Oh my God.
And it works. I will tell everyone.
Sure does.
It works.
Sure does. Because were you tipped out as part of the tip pool there as a hostess?
Oh. We were not.
So of course
no.
you. If
at Carrabba's, yes, but at Tavern, no. No,
you're
we were
getting
not.
your palm greased, you're about to become the first on the list.
Absolutely. And that was my first experience of being in a union restaurant. It was unionized.
I didn't know restaurants were union.
Yes. Most hotels. So if you work at a restaurant that's part of a hotel.
I didn't know that.
However, Tavern on the Green was a union restaurant. And so our hourly pay was actually very, very good.
Okay.
And for 2000.
Sure.
Like I want to say it was like $15 an hour.
Good damn.
In 2000.
We were making $2.13 while y'all were making 15.
Yeah, I was getting $2.13 at Carrabba's because I got tipped out by the servers. So this was like a sweet fucking gig.
Yeah.
And we had 5 different dining rooms. And so there'd be a host at every podium for each dining room.
Holy shit.
And then you'd have 2 hosts at the main, like when you first walk into this grand lobby and you've got the main host stand. And then they give you a card and it shows like your way to your dining room. And then there'll be a host at that dining room to seat you at your table. But once you like got to be at the main host stand, like you're the first person, that's when the money came in. And it would be like, oh, as a matter of fact, we do have a table for you right by that window.
So
it
weird.
Just opened up.
It's like, I just saw them. They got up.
It was great.
God, that power.
It was great. And then we did a ton of private events. And when that happened, we got to work coat check. So I got to check all the famous people's coats. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It was so easy.
Can you name names of who does or doesn't tip? Do you feel comfortable?
Oh God, I feel comfortable, but I don't even remember.
Good.
For coat check, it was so simple. Like when you handed them their coat, they would just hand you like $5 or whatever. Yeah. I don't recall, and I don't remember anyone like not tipping, but I remember just like everyone's coats that I took. I was like, wow.
This is so-and-so's coat.
Yeah.
We had the thing, I worked at Universal City Hard Rock Cafe when I first came to LA, and I didn't realize it was like this crazy, like hard to get job. So we would have resumes dropped off. I mean, I'd field like 15 resumes a day. People were in there all the time. Did you have a similar experience where people were just constantly trying to get hired there?
Yeah. People really wanted to work there.
You're making drug money as a server. You're probably walking out with at least 3 stacks. Like
it's a union job. Those servers were ancient. They were practically mummified. They were so old because you can't get fired if you're as a union.
Sure.
Like they were so. It's like going to Musso and Frank's in Los Angeles, and I love it because the servers are like old school.
Yeah,
like they wear their little vests and they look like they've maybe worked there for 50 years. They're part of the family, and that's how Tavern was. It was like mostly a male staff too. It was very very few female servers. And they were all really, really old because they had been there forever.
Why mostly men? Oh, just because maybe at the time when they were initially hired, it was like men do this job, women don't.
Yeah.
Good Lord. So how did you get in there?
Cool. I saw an ad in one of the papers. I don't know what I was looking for a job. Maybe it was Craigslist back then. But I actually think it was a paper, and they had an open call for hosts. And so I went and I wore a really sexy top.
Duh. You wanted the job. You had to.
My boobs were just amazing. And so I wore something super sexy. And I mean, I basically got like hired on the spot.
I'm sure you did.
They're like, yeah. And I even said, this is so, like on my resume, I saw the manager write a note. in all caps underlined, great looks.
Of course. Of course. It's like,
It's so disgusting.
but you know what? You got the job. So
I got the job.
Joke's
I
on
didn't
them.
do anything inappropriate. I just looked real hot.
That's the game.
Yeah. This is back when I was proud to flaunt my body instead of hiding it.
Oh, real talk. Okay, so you work at Tavern next. What was after that?
Tavern. I was there until I had to go into treatment. And then after treatment, the VIP bottle server at the nightclubs.
I have so many questions.
And then I worked as a hostess at an Italian restaurant in Maui.
Oh, fun.
Which was fun.
Do you speak Italian?
Si.
I thought so.
A little bit. Not
did.
a ton of Italian.
Enough, though.
Enough, yes.
Yeah,
Si.
to be charming. Okay. Hostess, so that was in...
Po d'Italiano. So that was on Maui. And then when I... because I'm Saint Amie and had to rescue my poor ex and take him to
L.A.
Oh, you know what I skipped though? Before going to Maui, when we lived in New Hampshire, I was so fucking miserable that I drove 5 hours to New York City, would sleep on my aunt's couch for 3 nights in a row to work 3 shifts as a hostess at Pure Food and Wine, which is a vegan restaurant.
Oh my God, this is the one.
Yes.
Oh, you have to see. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
How did you forget this job?
I thought this is the one I remembered today at the last minute. I was like, oh my God. I worked at Pure Food and Wine.
I don't think people, well, I mean, the documentary is still up, but like, I think people don't really talk about it. You have to tell people why I'm freaking out.
It's Pure Food and Wine was, so I, up until, I don't know, 12 years ago was a vegan, which, it was still my way of restricting as many food groups as possible. And so I was vegan for quite some time. And this fad of being a raw vegan was very, very in vogue at the time, where you don't cook your fruits and vegetables. Everything is uncooked because apparently heat alters the nutrient value of these foods. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. Nobody,
it's just disordered eating for other people.
It's an eating disorder.
Yeah.
It's actually now called orthorexia. There's actually a clinical term for it.
There needs to be.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally. So Pure Food and Wine was run by this gorgeous,
Stunning.
beautiful, like should be a supermodel woman who emulated everything I wanted to be. And she was very smart. Like, came from the Wharton School of Business and was with this chef, like, as her partner, her romantic partner. And they opened this restaurant, Pure Food and Wine, and it was a raw vegan restaurant. And it was the hottest fucking ticket in town. The Clintons loved going there. It was like one of Bill Clinton's favorite spots. But anyway, it was great. I was obsessed. So I worked there 3 days a week. And so I lived in New Hampshire 4 days a week because I had to, I guess. And 3 days a week, I slept on my aunt's couch and worked for at Pure Food and Wine. Fast forward, the owner, Sarma, there's a documentary about her right now called Bad Vegan. And I work for her. That's my boss. I knew her well. And she essentially stole all the money from the restaurant.
Did you know she was scheming and scamming when you were there?
No.
Did you have a feeling?
No.
Like, were you getting your... Because according to the documentary, like, people started figuring out because their checks were bouncing.
Yes.
Or you weren't getting paid. Were you there when that was all happening?
No, but the employees that are interviewed in that documentary, I worked with them. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it started, I think, happening a few years after I left.
Because it was open for... it had a long run. Yeah.
For a New York City restaurant that's raw vegan, it actually had a really long life. And the food was phenomenal. If I weren't... I mean, I eat everything today. I have no restrictions, but I would still probably eat there because the food was so good. I worked for Sarma, the bad vegan.
Oh, y'all have to watch that documentary.
It's amazing. I couldn't believe when they were like, "Did you read this whole New York Times expose about Sarma?" I'm like, What? She just took off with everyone's money. Oh my gosh. It was
I cannot
wild.
believe you worked there.
I did.
But you enjoyed it over and above the food being good, obviously, because if you're coming, or was it just survival so that you didn't have to be in New Hampshire? It was like, okay. So it was a shiny job because of your circumstances.
Yeah. And I specifically, if I was going to work around food, post
recovery,
eating disorder treatment, I wanted it to be my kind of food.
Sure.
I was like, oh, I want to, and again, just like with I want to be at the Underbelly in Edinburgh. I want this. If I kind of just say that I want to get something, and I just go for it. And
That's an amazing quality.
I was like, I really want to work for Pure Food and Wine. And that was on Craigslist. And I was like,
What?
I manifested this. And it was fine. It wasn't one of those fun, like, grease your pump, you know, like I didn't get any cool tips. Lots of celebrities like came in, but
it wasn't sexy in the way you wanted it to be.
No. Thought like, it wasn't as sexy as I hoped, but.
And you lasted there 3 years?
No, I think I was only there for as long as we lived in New Hampshire. So maybe like a year and a half or so.
Okay.
And that's when I jumped over to Maui and I hosted there at an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
I also on Maui got my very first server job. I stopped hosting and I went to the Grand Wailea Resort.
Oh my God.
And I was a poolside server.
Girl, you probably made money.
I did. I made money.
That resort is did it get affected by the fires?
It did not.
Okay, amazing. Everybody go to the Grand Wailea because
it's so beautiful.
Just walking onto the property, the sounds.
It's lovely. I hated doing the poolside service because it was just very hard because you're sitting at a pool at a resort and like I'm like, okay, that's 12 milkshakes for these people's kids, and then you get back and no one's sitting where they were sitting. Everyone's
you gotta
in the
go
pool.
find them.
I'm like, where the fuck did everyone go? Everyone's on island time, and I get it. Enjoy yourselves, but please just leave something on the chair. Like, we didn't have numbers on the chairs or the little tables. You just had to remember. Like, I would write down on my notepad, like, okay, man in
Hawaiian shirt,
yellow, yeah, right.
Fucking what? Old man who's bald, white. You're never gonna find that person
French
again.
fries. And it was just like, and the kids, and it's a great resort for families too because they have these water slides and they've got like so many pools. But you are balancing
too many drinks.
The giant tray with like 18 virgin fucking daiquiris for everyone.
Like 50 pounds.
It's so heavy, and then it's slippery because you're going through these like caves, you know?
I forgot.
And the kids are just
running
because they're having so much fun and screaming. I'm like, get the fuck, watch out.
Oh my God.
I mean, aloha. Please leave me alone. It was, and we had to wear white shorts.
That's so dumb. They always do that, and you're gonna spill. It's so dumb.
White shorts, and you know, I was just like, this ain't cool. And it was my first very, very corporate job because it's owned by the Waldorf Astoria, which I think might be Hilton now. I don't know, but it was very corporate. So it's the first job I ever had where you had to like go into the underground, like underneath the hotel, into all these like tunnels and systems to get.
So they can't see you.
So they don't see the staff.
No employees.
Yes, stay invisible until they need you.
Gross.
Yeah, but that was my first serving job.
Wow. How long did you last at that?
Oh, probably like a year.
Damn.
Yeah.
That much frustration for a full calendar year. You can tolerate a lot.
I could tolerate a lot for if the money's right. And
well,
then,
listen,
you know,
that part.
The white shorts, I'm like, ugh, you're killing me. And then just like wearing so much sunscreen every day too. It just gets, I'm like, oh,
it gets old.
It gets so old.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. I met some really good people who I'm still in touch with today.
That's neat.
And then I came over to Los Angeles and I started working at a place called, I realized I work at a lot of Italian restaurants. This was Pizza Antica, which I don't think exists anymore. It was on the Santa Monica, not the pier, but like the 3rd Street Promenade.
Oh, sure.
At that mall down there.
Oh, most of that shit's all gone.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a sad.
I never go to the West Side. Yeah. Well, moving from Hawaii to LA, I was like, I have to live by the beach. I'm an island girl. And so I chose Santa Monica. I was like, this place sucks. It was so hard to go anywhere. If you're on the West Side, you are locked. Yeah. And this is pre-Waze, like pre-GPS on our cell phones.
Pre-Uber, pre-Lyft.
Oh, yeah. And I was like, I have been on the same red light for 17 cycles at Santa Monica Boulevard, trying to get to the second city to take a freaking improv 1 level class. And I was so stressed
Making me
out.
anxious right now. No thanks.
So I worked there. Pizza Antica, some of the greatest friends in the world. They're still my friends today. My manager is the one that was like, we're funny together. We should take an improv class together. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that's how I wound up at Second City. And his name is Matty Norwood, and he's still one of my besties.
Wow.
And then after Pizza Antica, I was a server there. I don't know why I quit, but I moved to Blue Plate Oysterette, which is also in Santa Monica.
Oh, did you make so much money? Their fucking tabs are insane. The plates are like $50 a person.
Yeah, and it was so laid back.
Yes.
I loved it.
I'll bet.
I loved it.
Did you make a grip of money there?
I made great money
I
there.
bet you did.
Yeah, and it was so chill, and all you had to wear was blue jeans and some top that had blue in it. And I was like, what? This is so... I love working for non-corporate.
Yes.
Like Pizza Antica was a West Coast chain. Maybe they have 5 locations, but still I was like, I don't like being told that I have to do things in a certain way. Like I want my freedom. And Blue Plate was just that. Tiny plates were expensive. Lots of celebrities again. And laid back. And that's when I was kind of going through my divorce too. So I was like, let's all get fucked up and party and drink wine after work. And everyone's like, okay. Like you're hot. What's your number? I was very
just no fucks. You're just doing it. Good for you.
Very fond memories.
I bet.
And then going through my divorce, I moved to the Valley. I had a friend who needed a roommate because she was going through a major breakup with her boyfriend of like 7 years. He was moving out. She needed a roommate. I could not live with my ex. You know, we were separated but still living together, and it was terrible idea, everybody.
No gracias.
Don't do it. It was
do not recommend.
Awful. So I left the West Side. I moved to North Hollywood. And my roommate at the time, she's like, I work as a server at Morton's Steakhouse in Burbank. And she's like, they're looking for servers. Do you want to apply? And I was like, sure. Still a vegan, by the way.
Nah.
Still a vegan. Nah. I'm like, a steakhouse? Absolutely.
Sounds amazing.
And the way I would talk those steaks up to everybody.
I bet you would. Like, there's a rub on this one.
Oh, yeah. The fat... the marbling on this.
So much of it.
This T-bone, this ribeye, tomahawk, yes.
I just ate 3 last night.
They're like, well, what's your favorite thing on them? Even at Pizza Antique, they're like, what's your favorite pizza?
Most expensive one.
I'm like, yeah, the number 3 is so good. The
that starts at $50.
The burrata. Yeah. Like, I don't eat this shit. I'm vegan.
But again, that's superiority, baby. You're like, I'll make you fall.
Oh, I loved it. I was like, you're eating flesh.
Yeah.
You
bastards.
Piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm so much
better than you.
Yeah, and I would still, like, if a table ordered a bottle of wine and there was like half a cup remaining in that bottle, and I would like clear the table, I'm like, pouring this wine out for myself.
I have been there, girl. Oh, that is so relatable. So I would sneaky sneak.
Yes. I'm like, oh, it's time for my ginger ale. Or is
Wink.
it Prosecco? I don't know. You tell me. Suddenly Amy's in a good mood.
Wow, Amy's like really chilling all of a sudden. Okay,
Morton's was difficult. It was so corporate.
That's what I've heard.
I mean, talk about all those like selling points. You would get secret shopped like
all the time, because Morton's and Hard Rock were owned by the same corporation.
Really?
The secret shopping is obscene. It's like 4 times a week.
It's so frequent.
It's all the time.
It was like, it gave me such bad anxiety.
Yes.
Because after every table, you'd start thinking,
was that a secret shopper? Did I do all the touch points?
Did I do all the talking? I didn't sell them on our loyalty card.
I'm going to go back.
Like, you get threatened to be fired if you didn't get enough people to sign up. Frequent rewards cards. And these were industry people. Yeah. For those.
At a steakhouse? Like, I don't want a membership card like at Ralph's where I'm going to a steakhouse. That's insane.
It's embarrassing.
Yes, it's embarrassing.
I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
And also, the location of this Morton's, it's practically attached to Warner Brothers.
Yes.
We weren't getting tourists. We weren't really even getting, it was all.
You're getting producers,
people.
Directors, actors. You're getting it all.
I'm not going to tell like Guillermo del Toro. I'd never waited on Guillermo del Toro.
But
you know, like someone of that caliber to be like,
you want a points card, Guillermo?
Could I interest you in our loyalty program? You get a free cake on your birthday. Sir.
Does it sound good?
Here's my headshot.
Also, hey, I get fired if I don't do this, but also I want to be an actor. Can we like make that work out? Oh, okay. Shoot me in the face.
I hated it. And also the fucking trays again. I can't. Yeah, I'm completely recovered, but I live in a smaller body. I'm a narrow framed woman. And so for me, with those trays, I was like, there are times where my wrist would just go out on me and it'd be like, timber, and the tray would just start to tilt. And then I'd grab my other hand and just like, sometimes servers came and like rescue the tray. They're like, Amie.
Oh my God.
Because we did a ton of private lunches for like pharmaceutical, reps and in the private dining rooms. And I was like, and so you've got like 20 little like things of like macaroni and cheese that just came out of the oven, piping hot, and you have to run it. And I'm like, this is not for me.
That ain't for me
This
either.
is not for me.
Yeah.
it was actually too demanding.
That's too much. How long did you last?
Over a year.
Girl,
I know.
you and
I'm loyal.
this year, you're like, that is my marker of torture.
I'm so loyal. I'm loyal to a fault.
Girl.
I told you about my ex. I'm like, I got this. I can do it. I've done harder things.
I won't quit.
No,
I've done
you
harder
guys
things.
need me. Oh my God. And that was my last serving job ever.
Oh, mazel.
Yeah.
How
And
does
then
that feel?
I only did childcare to support myself after that, in addition to acting,
Sure.
of course.
Sure.
I just nannied on and off. And I was a personal assistant for a woman I used to nanny for. She's an actress. I definitely won't name her. So then I was her assistant for a little bit. And I worked for casting for a quick, like 18 months.
Holy shit.
I wanted to see if the grass was greener. It's not.
It's not, turns
It's
out.
absolutely
It's
not.
meaner.
It is meaner. Yeah. I have
'Cause you're
never
in it every day.
cried more in my life.
I believe you.
It was awful.
They take it out on
Again, like tale as old as time, I met the best friends ever there.
course.
We're hanging out in a few weeks.
It's war buddies.
Yeah.
It's that's what gets
they're
us.
the greatest. And some of them are still there, and they're, but
Not for you.
I was like, this is what brought me to this job, is so I can meet my friends for life.
Of course.
They're so great. So I'm glad I did it. But I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
So I got out of there and I started doing background work again and nannying again. And
Don't we do that?
yep. And then the one thing I do now, in addition to childcare, that's funnily kind of customer service related, is I am the background waitress on The Young and the Restless.
Aww.
They have a restaurant in their little made up town called.
Do they bump you up? I'm sorry to make this about that, but like, because you're now a regular that they can call to be a part of the atmosphere, it's not really background anymore.
No, it's not, but the pay is still background.
Fuck off.
They are so kind. They call us the supporting cast. And only if you speak, like, do you get the financial bump. So I've probably done over 200 or 300 episodes of Young and the Restless. Because it's on every day. It's 5 days a week. But I'm not. There's no contract for me. I'm not contracted. So
Could your agents kind of push for that?
I got that job without my agent. So I do
fine.
it. So I'm one of the restaurant is called Society, and it's like their high end restaurant on the show. And they probably, I don't know, there's probably 4 of us that they rotate through. So I play a waitress on TV now. And
it counts, and you should be very proud of that. Truly, I would be proud of that credit, and you should be.
I am proud.
Yeah, you should be.
It's honest, and I know no one from the show will listen to this probably. I hope they do, but it's a very well-oiled machine.
I love that.
They have a great crew. The cast is so kind. There's like no such thing as a soap opera diva. I've also done this as a waitress on the show Days of Our Lives, and same situation. It's like the kindest people you've ever encountered in this.
I love that.
In the biz. So I still have to serve food and drinks, but on a television
you get it
show.
on TV now. So thank God you have that experience. Don't say it doesn't pay. Okay. Now so technically that's what you're doing now.
Yeah, that brings us to present day.
I love that. Okay. So I have so many bottle service questions, but I recognize I'm holding you hostage. So I want to go, what was your favorite job of all of those?
Bottle serving.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I hoped. Okay. Now,
yeah.
Why?
It was the most money I've ever made in my life. With all the money I talk about making, you would think that I'm rich. I have like $100 in my checking account right now, but you
also were in recovery for a year, so like we get it. You used to make a lot.
Once upon a time, I made so much money. Bottle serving was insane chunks of cash.
Stripper money. It's wild.
It is wild. I will give numbers.
Okay,
I
good.
would make sometimes $3,000 in a night. And this was the best part, because this is the year, I don't know, 2006-ish. This is when nightclubs were like having their moment. And everyone wanted to. There would be swarms of people at the red velvet ropes trying to get in. And you had to have a table reservation. And with a table reservation, you had a minimum requirement of buying 2 bottles. Each bottle maybe the least expensive one was $500. It was like a bottle of vodka, of Absolute or something like that. And so at minimum, this table is going to spend $1,000, and we added a 20% gratuity.
I was just going to ask. So you're guaranteed to at least get $200.
$200 right off the bat.
Now, are people tipping on top of that? They must be.
Yes, they were so fucked up by the end of the night, they had no idea what they were doing. And also, we pre-authorized their credit cards to make sure that they had the money. So when the host at the nightclub brings you your table, your guests, they hand you an envelope with what they ordered in advance plus their credit card. You put the order in, you run the credit card, you pre-authorize it for like $5,000 to make sure they've got the money, and you have their ID as well. And then your busser brings them the drinks. All you have to do is look cute and make sure they have everything that they need. And that, and so maybe I'd have 10 tables a night, so that's $2,000. And we pooled tips. So sometimes you had like the super hot waitresses, like the ones who have been doing this and they know how to work their tables. They'd be like, I made $5,000 tonight, but you'd pool it, you'd share it, you tipped your bussers out big time. Like we gave them a lot of extra money. We didn't even need to because they did all the work.
Yeah.
It was so easy. And then most of the time I just danced with the other servers and like had a really good time.
Yeah. Like in your 20s, that would be the most fun job ever.
So much fun. And there were two clubs. One was called Pangea, and that club was playing more of like the modern, like hip hop and pop, and which was like more of my music. And then the other nightclub that was connected to us was called Griffin, and they played like the electronic. Like,
no,
oh my God, I hate it.
It drives me nuts. I can't
hated it. And you didn't know which club you were going to have to work in each week. So the schedule would come out. And if you worked in Griffin, you were all black. If you worked in Pangea, you were all red. And if they put me in Griffin, I was so fucking mad.
Oh, I would have been too.
Oh, I hated it because
that'll ruin your night. Oh, God. And, you're like, oh, no.
And I will tell you, this is just my observation. On that side, everyone was doing heavy drugs.
No question.
And so they didn't order beyond the minimum.
Sure.
They were drinking water.
And then doing Coke all night.
They were doing lots of drugs. On the other side, everyone was there to dance and have a good time and get drunk. So I made better money on the drunk side.
Of course.
than the other side.
So when you're clearing average $3,000 a night, how many nights a week did you have to give them? Were you like, cool, I'm only going to work one night a week?
Oh, yeah. I worked like 2 nights a week.
What a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift. As an actor, that's like it. That's it.
I know.
And you can actually afford your life.
I know. I paid off all my debt. I supported myself completely. I bought my car. I really was responsible with the money. I partied a lot. Like I drank too much for sure. But, and I started dating my now ex-husband, which I'm like, but it brought me to where I am today, and I'm grateful. But yeah, it was like so. For the amount of money I made being that young, I'm proud of how I handled it. But I also bought myself like
all those things.
Yeah, I spent however I wanted to.
So for that time, not to go negative, but were there ever situations where, as a bottle service girl, you were like, "And I'm scared"?
No, I actually had more of those situations as a hostess.
Really?
Yeah, by staff members. Like, and I'll call out Tavern on the Green, the management there completely, so trigger warning, but there was a class action lawsuit against them, like maybe 5 or 6 years after I had stopped working there for sexual harassment, that I did not partake in, though, because I didn't tell I wasn't ready to talk about that. But yeah, I experienced more. The 2 places you would think I would experience like, ooh, this is getting scary is modeling as a teenager.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I avoided asking because I was like, I can't handle the answer to that.
Never, ever, ever had a bad experience, like a creepy experience. We always were chaperoned by our parents, though.
Sure.
But it never got weird. And it also never got weird at the nightclubs.
Wow.
Ever. If anything, like I definitely clearly recall like having some very good looking people at my tables and me trying to flirt with them and then being totally not interested.
We're trying to party. Actually,
they're like,
we're
aren't
scared.
you a server?
You're like
I'd sit down sit down on the table and cross my legs and hike up my skirt, and I'd be like, it's my birthday next week. I don't know. What should I do with my life? And they're
like, ma'am, can you get up?
This is unsanitary. Your ass cheeks are on my ice.
Oh my God, that's insane. I love it. Well, I'm glad to hear that was not, I'm sorry to hear about the previous experiences, but I'm glad to hear that the place where I absolutely had it in my head that's where something happened.
I know. And maybe I'm just really, really lucky, but I also know all of the women that I worked with, a male employee always walked us to our cars.
Lovely.
There was a lot of awareness, and we knew, and we closed at like 6 a.m. Like,
that schedule, I will say, of all the jobs I've had, that weird, like when I would get home from a comedy club at like 3 a.m, it takes an hour to wind down. And then if you're getting a solid 8, it's noon before you get up. It just, you are sort of divorced from the world. And then your whole social life becomes that job. Because otherwise you're not going to see, because who the fuck is going to be awake at 4 a.m. to be like, you want to go to the gym? Oh, 4 a.m. Does somebody want to hang out with me? Like, you can't. That's your whole social life. So you better hope to Christ you love the people you work with.
You're absolutely correct. I was talking to last week to one of my best childhood friends who was close by, and we were going through old photos, and there were some photos of me from like the nightclub days, and she was like, yeah, you kind of just disappeared during that time. Like we didn't really hang out. I'm like, that's why.
Yeah.
That is why you only hung out with your fellow like bottle server crew, because
you're you're divorced from the world.
You are.
And
you cannot, you're a vampire.
Yeah.
I would be getting home
when people are getting up for work.
When people were getting up. I remember specifically too, people leaving like my apartment complex, going to church on Sunday morning.
That feels so specific.
And I've got like my makeup is just already like halfway down my face.
You smell like booze. You're just like half your tights are ripped.
I have spilled Jägermeister all over myself.
You might have
over myself.
No, ma'am.
It was
so specific.
That's eventually why one of the reasons I wanted to leave. I was like, I can't live like this any longer.
It's not a life.
This is getting bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's good money, but there's a reason that people have a shelf life.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Least favorite job of all of those?
Ooh, probably the Gap.
The Gap. That's why I was like, she ain't gonna say the Gap.
No, they're second to it was the Gap. I hated it.
Yeah, hated it. It was a nightmare.
I just did not like it. Yeah.
Did you have Ithamar had mentioned that they required that you guys wear the most up to date fashion that was available there at the time. So like a lot of your check was going towards so he had an employee that was like, just buy black and just wear all black. Did you guys have the same thing where you could have just worn a black t-shirt, black pants, and that was just considered in, or did you constantly have to keep buying the new stuff?
You had to wear head to toe Gap for sure, but you didn't have to wear the updated fashions. We got a generous 50% discount. But
I don't want my check going back to my job. Fuck you.
Exactly.
Like, discount or not, you not giving it to me for free, I'm out.
I know. If you're requiring it as part of the uniform.
This is girl, don't get me started. If you're requiring it, give it to me.
I agree.
I agree. Because otherwise
I had to buy my own shit.
That's indentured servitude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm being dramatic. It's not actually that. But if a piece of my salary is going back to the house and I'm not drinking it away, fuck you.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree. Yeah, we had to wear Gap. So I think I just wore jeans and like a sweater for the most part. Yeah.
Cheat the system. Fuck you, Gap. Sorry.
No,
they're going under anyway. Who cares?
And the pay was shit.
It's not good.
Yeah, I'm in it for the money.
Word. What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock?
Oh gosh. I mean, at the nightclubs, it would be like
sit on my lap.
It'd be
No, thank you.
I'd be like, well, you are spending. Let me check that credit limit.
It's a hustler scenario all of a sudden.
Truly was the time I was the most confident. I think because I was in a decent place with my health, mentally and physically, and I was just making so much. I felt so independent. But some man gave me $100 to go buy him cigarettes. I was like, all right, bye, see ya.
That is so funny. Shout out to Caitlin, a previous guest of the podcast, who's the only other person who's ever done bottle service that I've interviewed.
She had that exact thing. He gave her $100. She had to leave property to go get cigarettes and go back.
Oh my gosh.
How funny.
How specific.
How specific and weird. And that was in LA. It wasn't in Miami.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
So weird.
Yeah. I was like, all right. And I would just tell another, I would tell the person doing my busing.
Correct.
I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go $100.
Yeah.
Or I'd give it to the busser and say, go get cigarettes and just give me like $30.
Yeah. Awesome. And I bet they did.
Oh yeah.
When you're clearing that amount of cash, you're like, I'll do whatever I gotta do. Yeah.
And a lot of people working in those nightclubs had families. Like they really needed the money. And I was like, you go do it and you keep the money.
That's kind.
Yeah. Because I'm the one wearing high heels. I don't want to run and get someone cigarettes.
I want to be here dancing and trying to not get flirted with.
I think the weirdest thing I ever did on the clock, and I definitely didn't have to, but I volunteered myself, was I was working on the Pangea side, like the more
hip hop
and like top 40.
Yeah.
Just like, God, the songs back then. I actually have a playlist of like all the songs I would jam to at that club. It was, oh my gosh. You know what like the big songs were back then was like, to the window, to the wall, till the sweat drops down my balls.
Yep.
Oh, skeet, skeet, motherfuckers.
Yeah, which people play at weddings now. And I'm like, do you know what this song is talking about? I'm like, what is happening?
And I have like all spaghetti arms over here thinking I'm like, I know how to twerk. Like the whitest woman in the world being like, oh yeah, motherfuckers. Like
so
thinking
ridiculous.
I am so fucking sexy. And when Snoop had that like Snoop, that was Drop It Like It's Hot.
Yeah.
God, that music, that was what we were listening to and dancing to. And then the club next door, the electronic, one, the Electronica, they had models in that were being body painted, and like they were like hired dancers to be body painted and like dance around the club. And I don't know if this is like even true or not, but they were like, hey, they're letting like any of the bottle servers go over and get body painted and dance because they're short. And I was like, I'll do it.
Of
and
course.
I was definitely drunk. And I was like, abso-fucking-lutely. And everyone was so excited. They were like, we'll cover your tables because we pulled tips. So
it didn't matter.
Yeah. And I just remember being body painted by this artist. I kept my underwear on, but nothing else. It looked so cool. And I remember just like being escorted into the nightclub and standing on this podium that it was never there before. And I just danced naked in paint.
What a okay, now look, I was too shy to ever do shit like that. But what a liberating experience that for the rest of your life, you'll look back and be like, it didn't matter. It was inconsequential. You had your underwear on and you got to just do that.
It really, after the eating disorder journry, which it wasn't over at that time. Like I definitely but
you were
relapsed.
Peaked at least. Yeah.
It was so liberating to have had so much shame surrounding my body for my whole life.
Yes.
So much shame and so much, like, in my eyes, disappointment. I disappointed everyone by getting so sick. Something that I felt I never had control over. And I was like, oh, wait, no, this is control.
100%.
This is me making decisions.
I'm taking it back.
About my body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is me apologizing to my brain, my body, and giving myself the freedom to do what I will. And I'm like, I think I understand why women are strippers or sex workers. I'm like, I think I understand, like, I've not worked as a sex worker, but I'm just like, oh, I think I get that a little bit. If being like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're going to look at my body anyway.
Yeah.
You're going to fantasize about it. I'm in control. You can't actually touch me on a podium.
It is actually full and complete and total power.
Yeah.
In a way that we don't, as women, almost ever have.
Yes. And I'm so glad I did it.
I'm glad for you.
My tits will never look as good as they did when I was 23.
It's a different time of life, girl.
God bless them. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Perky boobs.
R.I.P. collagen. Okay. What's an incident that made them ask to speak with your manager? I doubt you had one.
I don't think that I do.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, I think just like at Morin's, it was just like they were unhappy with their food or
sure,
something.
But unrelated to you.
It was not related to me, though. Yeah,
that's what I figured.
Yeah, not to my knowledge, at least.
I get it. Was there ever a last straw that got you out of any of these jobs where you were like, get me the fuck out of here, flip a table, I'm done? Or was it always just, oh, I found something else?
It usually was like, I think my journey here is over. Yeah. I think I probably was one where, because I was I was like a production coordinator in the casting department. I just coordinated talent, but I definitely like had one too many, like, I'm just going to run to the restroom real quick just to sob.
Yeah.
Or be like, I'm just going to take a lap around the building outside just to sob.
I've been there, girl.
Yeah. The pressure and the pay was really bad. And I will tell you, like, if you want good, like employees who stick around,
pay them
and are happy to do the work, you have to pay them more than minimum wage.
That's it.
And I know I was entry level, but I was barely scraping by.
You can't live on minimum wage. They have proven nowhere in the country except for, I think they found like one town in the middle of nowhere where the current federal minimum wage you can actually live on.
Really?
There is not one city in the country. Well, there's one in the entire country. It's abysmal. Yeah.
It's absurd.
What am I going to go work 3 jobs so I can do it? None of which I want.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound like a brat, but it's like, I'll work hard, but that level of mental destruction that happens, not worth it.
I know. And also having had seen, like, and I know the economy was different when I was at Tavern on the Green and working at the nightclubs, but I'm like, I know there's money out there to do way less work.
Way less work.
And way less crying. I never cried as a bottle server. I cried tears of joy when I was like, I just got so much money from these drunk nerds. But yeah, really for me was just like, what is my life? What is my life? But I am not only just grateful for the friends I made there, but it was so depressing and disturbing how depressed I got that I was like, I'm going to write a show because I need to, what legacy am I leaving on this earth? What am I going to do? Because I've chosen to not have children, mutually with my husband. And so I'm like, what am I leaving behind? What will I leave behind? What will my legacy be? How will I help other people? How am I helping people doing this?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of reward with nannying because you are helping,
rear the next generation.
Yeah,
that's real.
Yeah. And I love helping I love helping women and especially working mothers who work, who are boss ladies who are like, I can't do it all. It takes a village. And I'm happy to be that person. But I'm like, what is my purpose of being here? And was such an existential daily crisis that it got me to that place of like, okay, you've got to figure your shit out, Amie. You can't do shit like this anymore. So that, to me, that was a tipping point, but it got me in. I was like, okay, I'm going to take a class. I'm going to write a story.
I love that.
Yeah.
It takes what it takes. As we know.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever, do you have a version of like Amie Enriquez's, like, I'll just tell this customer to F off without actually saying it? Like, do you have a cute way that you're like, oh, I hate this person. They're being terrible, but they're not going to know.
Oh gosh. No, I'm too nice.
I know. I figured that's okay.
So nice.
I even changed how I asked the question because I'm like, she's got to know for probably both of these, but I'm just going to see.
No, and I've listened to the podcast and I was like, man, I'm so nice, mostly to a fault. But, if there are shitty customers, I'm like, maybe they're just having a really bad day. Maybe they're going through something. Like, even at the nightclub, the owner would come in with his model hot wife, like, all the time. And one night they invited me to sit down with them at their table, which happens all the time with the servers. And I sat down, and essentially they asked me to go back to their house with them.
Of course.
And I just very kindly, said, no, thank you. I'm not interested. And they were like, okay. And that was it.
I love that.
I was like, oh, I'm going to get fired. They're totally going to fire me.
Yeah, I figured they would have, and they didn't.
I just turned down this threesome with them. And no, they were like, okay. Like, they respected that. And so I feel like I'm just so nice.
Yeah, you're also...
Because that could have definitely been a fuck you moment,
That could have been a dangerous moment. You got a lot of angels around you.
Girl, don't I know it. Yeah. I don't know how I'm sitting here alive today to tell a story, which is why I tell my stories. Because I'm like, I had to survive this for a reason.
1,000%. Okay.
Absolutely.
How many bodily fluids have been on you whilst you've been on the clock? Did you ever have that at the club where people would barf or get weird? Yeah, of course, right?
Bodily fluids, for sure, puke. Mostly my own.
Hello, relatable.
Definitely pee. I remember my ex being so drunk, he like
peed the bed.
Definitely peed on me. Yeah. Ugh. And not in like a, hey.
Yeah, that's not hot.
He was blacked out. And yeah, so at the club, like puke and piss for
all
sure.
the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's about it though.
That's good. That's enough to be disgusting. Okay, so do you tip?
Yes.
How much?
minimum 20%.
Minimum. Is there anything someone can do to make you tip less than that?
No,
Yeah.
I think the least I'll go is 18%, and they have to be just the worst, like
What's the worst?
they show up with just like a shitty attitude and then disappear.
Disappearing is the
disappearing
thing.
act
Yeah.
drives me crazy. The dropping the check before even asking, like, is this it for you?
Or when you have food on your plate.
Yes, when there's
makes me
still
crazy.
food on your plate.
It makes me crazy.
Because I'm like, okay, I get it. You want to go home, but it's also 7:00 and it's busy. I know
Yeah.
you're not getting cut.
No.
It's just very clear that they are just like, I'm like,
Over it.
yeah, did we know each other in a past life and I did something mean to you? I always think someone's mad at me. I'm like, are you mad at me?
Same, girl.
What did I? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I remember like apologizing to a server recently for making their job difficult. And I don't know what I was like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm making your job so hard for you. Maybe because I couldn't decide what I wanted to eat. I don't even remember. But they were like, no, you're not. You're fine. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Tip them or tip them extra. But I think that to maybe 18% at the very, very least. And you really have to be an absolute dick. I can't remember the last time I tipped less than 20%.
Oh, bless
and
you.
that's the minimum,
Yeah.
because it's like, what's an extra $2, like,
Yeah. You don't get it. Yeah. If you don't give it away, you don't get more.
yeah, yes, yeah. And also like, don't go out to eat or don't put yourself in a situation where the livelihood of the people who work there are depending on tips if you can't afford it, if you can't afford to tip them.
I agree with that statement.
Like, do not go out to eat if you cannot afford to tip 20% on the food. I know that the cost of food has gone up, and now there's all these extra surcharges on all these, 4% happy server tax or whatever.
Legit, girl. It
all
makes
this
me
shit I'm
insane.
seeing, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But I'm like, whatever. I'm still going to tip. Like, just don't go out to eat if you can't afford all of that extra stuff. Don't take it out on the server. That's my piece.
No, the tagline to get out of the show is if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. I mean, it's just where we're at. That's just how it's unfortunate, but it is.
I know.
Okay. Have you ever been fired? No way. Never.
I did
What?
actually get fired. I did, but I asked to be fired.
Well, that's different.
Yeah, from Tavern on the Green. I got called into one of the manager's offices, the only manager that did not sexually harass me. And so I felt okay going in there, and he was like, what is going on? Are you, like, I had lost so much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In relation to ED stuff. Okay.
All relation to ED stuff. And, he's like, is it a drug problem? Like, what can we help you? And I burst into tears, and I was like, no, I don't know what's happening to me. Like, that was one of the things where I was just like, because I was actually having really bad panic attacks at work as well.
It was stacking.
It was. I was like unable to actually get through my shift without needing to step outside and have a full meltdown by myself, like head between my legs.
That's so honest.
Catching my breath, wearing a tank top in the snow, just like,
That's so honest.
full panic attacks, and coming inside and being like, yes, right this way, please. I'll take. And
Been there, girl.
yeah. And I think people recognized it, obviously.
Sure.
And I said, I don't know what's happening to me. I'm so sorry. And I was also at a point where I required a stool at all times to sit on because I couldn't
No energy to stand up. Yeah.
It was really catching up to me. And he said, yeah, do you need to quit? And I was like, actually, can you fire me? Because it was a union job.
So you needed a
and I would
severance.
be able to collect
Unemployment.
So he literally gave me like the pink slip or like the whatever paper it is. Is it a pink slip or is
I
that
don't
when you
even know.
buy something and you get? I don't know.
No, pink slip is when you are fired.
Yeah,
You're given a pink slip.
I got
yeah.
a pink slip, and it was the year like 2002, I think. And so I got the pink slip, and I asked to be fired because I was thinking money.
Sure,
I was like,
sure. You have to live.
Yeah, and I think I knew at the time. I was like, what job can I do? I don't know.
If you can't stand.
I can't stand. No one's going to trust me with their children. Like, I really was like, oh, okay. So I got fired from that job. But I've never been fired because, like, I did something.
Insubordination or not performing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a real goody when it comes to...
Yeah.
I want to make everyone real proud.
I get it. And final question in this section, the worst customer you ever had to deal with, or an archetype of who the worst customer would be?
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking of like all the most wonderful. I'm like, oh, remember that customer? They were so cool. I think the archetype would definitely be going back to the nightclubs again of like the bros, like the douchey kind of
Tech
like
bros.
the what's the show? Like the Jersey Shore. Like the entitled, like, you are the douchiest douchers I've ever seen in my life. And they're so entitled. And that because they're like, you know how much money I'm spending here? You know how much money I'm spending here? And I'd be like, not enough. There were definitely those types of customers, of guests who did feel entitled, like they owned you because of the money they were spending.
That they have ownership over you because of the money.
And that goes into every server job, even Morton's, where I looked like a young boy, how I dressed, like hair back, I wore a JCPenney boys department button down and bow tie, like clip on bow tie. I looked like a little penguin. I called it my penguin costume, and not very sexualized at all, and I loved that. And still people would act so like the word server alone. I'm just like, can it be something else? You know, like so just like, but yeah, definitely the stereotype of like the guys in the clubs who were like, and thank God we had a dress code then too, but just wearing just the bare minimum. I'm just like, really? Like,
go away.
Yeah. But always throwing out like, you know how much money I'm spending here tonight? You know how much money?
It's to justify abuse, which is the grossest. I mean, I don't think people, when they say it, recognize that they're actually like, it's just to justify abuse. I mean, there's no other reason to say that, because on some level you're being a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Or you wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Like people who are like, I'm not a bad guy. It's like, you're saying that because you are a bad person.
To quote my favorite, the mistress doth protest too much. If you have to say it, it's like the people that ask, like, do you think he's going to hit me at some point? You already know the answer, girl.
Exactly.
You already know. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. Okay. What is the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working?
Oh, I mean, no one's ever, I think guests have never been done and like an act of service for me while on the job or on the clock. But the kindest person that I encountered was Rue McClanahan, who is Blanche from the Golden Girls. And I was at Pure Food and Wine, the bad vegan restaurant.
Bad vegan.
And she had come in to dine. Sorry, that was my ice maker.
You're good.
I had served so many famous people, or, like encountered so many famous people in the industry prior to like being an actor. I was like, oh, I don't get starstruck by anybody. She came in to this vegan restaurant wearing a fur coat, and I checked her coat.
Okay,
she
girl.
had no shame, and I hung it up, and I was like, oh my God. She dined. I forgot who she was with. I think at the time B. Arthur was doing a one-woman show on Broadway. Oh, wow. So that's probably what she was in town for, and all of us were starstruck. And like none of the servers ever got starstruck. We had Bono. We had like the biggest, coolest people come in, and we're like, I don't give a shit. Blanche from the Golden Girls. So I was like, I never, ever say anything to celebrities, ever. But as I was putting her coat on her at the end of the night, her fur coat in a vegan restaurant.
I just love that choice. I just love that choice. It's like, I don't care at all.
It made me love her even more.
It made me love her right now.
You are amazing.
Yes.
Bless her heart. And I said, I don't mean to disturb you, but I'm such a big fan of yours. And she hugged me so tight, like, honest to God, like head resting on her heaving bosoms. Like,
oh my gosh.
It felt so, and she goes, oh, aren't you just the cutest, sweetest little thing? And I could have cried. I was so
life complete.
Happy.
Yeah.
I had never been more at peace. I'm like, never let go of me. Please don't ever let go of me.
Wow.
And to me, it just felt very like,
yeah, that's lovely.
It was lovely.
Yeah, because she could have been like, okay, thank you. Like, because I'm sure people say that to her all the time, but you handled it really well.
It's like, you're from the Golden Girls. And like at Tavern on the Green, we hosted Michael Jackson's after party when he was doing concerts at Madison Square Garden in 2001.
Holy shit.
And it was September 9th, 2001 was his party, and I like saw everybody.
I bet you did.
Including Michael himself, and like nose to nose with Destiny's Child, which was, and Elizabeth Taylor, all of these people. And I was never as starstruck as I was with Rue McClanahan.
I love that so much.
Because she was so nice.
It matters.
So nice.
It matters.
Yeah.
I love that.
She was really sweet.
So would you say she's your favorite customer that you've waited on?
Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't even wait on her. I just stared at her from the stand, drooling like, oh, I love you.
What is the best tip you've ever gotten? Like a financial tip, not live your best life or whatever.
Financial tip? I mean, I want to get one outside of the nightclub, right? But because those were the best tips ever.
Tell us a nightclub one. What's the best one you remember?
The best one I remember, I think this table had spent an absurd amount of money on alcohol. I think they spent maybe like $5,000.
Good Lord.
So, which meant I automatically got $1,000. And then they just left like a stack of cash on top of it at the table to leave. And but because, and this is, oh my gosh, it's all coming back to me. He wanted to leave like a 500% tip, and the Amex blocks that. They're like, no, that's fraud. Like this, no one would do this. And so we knew this already. So I would say like, that's so generous of you. I just want to let you know like that your credit card is not going to allow me to process that. And so he's like, well, how much will they let? And I think I said the number of like, you can tip maybe like 200% or something. And then he left a shit ton of cash afterwards. Wow. So I think I got like a 500% tip off of this like $5,000 table. And it felt so good. It just felt so. And this guy was stone cold sober too. Wow. He was there to give his friends a really good time, and he was so kind. And he was so. Unfortunately, it was always men, but he was like, "Thank you so much for such a wonderful night." And
bless him.
Yeah, so I felt very like, oh, okay, this is not not everybody's awful and showy. Yeah.
And some people enjoy being that generous. I think that's the. I would too.
If I had $10,000 like that, to blow, and just give my friend a great birthday party and be like, we're gonna dance, we're gonna have fun,
and then also change the server's life. Like, that feels amazing.
And it feels so good because, like I said, we pooled the tips, and there were a lot of moms working there, and a lot of dads working there, and a lot of someone was going through medical school to be a doctor, and it was just like really cool that we could like,
celebrate that. Now, were you tempted at all to just be like, well, the cash I'm keeping and I'm just going to pull the credit card?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If any of us were wearing like knee-high boots,
some of that's going in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There absolutely were nights where I hauled my ass way harder than the other servers for sure, and would work with some staff that were not very helpful. And I'd be like, I'm pocketing this.
Yeah, that's when I hate a pooled house. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know we're in the positive section, but that's when I get annoyed, because if it's pooled, then there's always going to be people who are not incentivized to go that hard.
Definitely.
So I boot it up too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're wearing knee-high boots, you're stashing cash in there.
Smart.
And the best part was if I came home and it was such a long night, it'd be like 8 a.m. when I got home and I forgot and I took my boots off. I'm like, oh yeah.
Worth it. Glad it's 8 a.m. Okay. What's the best lesson you've personally learned from working in customer service?
The best lesson I've personally learned from working in customer service is
This is always the hardest question.
This is a really hard one. Again, I've listened to the podcast.
Everyone struggles. I edit out the pause because it takes people so long to figure it out.
The best lesson I've learned. I think the best lesson I've learned is that people who work in customer service are not lazy, and they're not doing this job because they didn't go to college or they're unmotivated. 9 times out of 10, they're doing it because they are supporting themselves in something else. No, it's no one's number one pick, but no one is in customer service because they are lazy or uneducated or unmotivated. It's really the smartest, most driven people I've ever met in my life work in customer service.
That's lovely. And last question, what's one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers?
Be kind.
It's easy.
It's probably the one you get I'm sure this is your most common answer.
It's not.
Really?
No, it's been said, but it's definitely not the most common.
Be kind. Mm-hmm. Everyone is going through something, especially in this day and age.
Girl.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, just be kind. Like yes, maybe your food isn't exactly how you wanted it to be, and there's a million fingers to point for that. But there's never a reason to be mean to anybody.
Never, not ever.
Yeah, just don't ever, ever, ever be mean. Not to your host, not to the server, not to, the busser or the food runner. It's just be nice. You're eating at a restaurant. You're not royalty.
Hello. And even if you are royalty, suck a dick. Be nice.
Exactly. Yeah. Just be nice.
Just be nice.
Because we show up. I have found out on the clock that a relative has passed away. I have found out on the... Yes.
Same.
And you just need to finish out this table, and then maybe your manager is going to let you go, or you're just really short-staffed, or you're burning the candle at both ends, or... like my mom was a waitress when I was going in treatment. Maybe your waitress has a child who is dying from an addiction currently, and she's trying to make extra money because insurance doesn't cover her treatment plan. You just don't know. So please treat people kindly. Yeah, we're all human.
We are.
Yeah.
Well, Amie, what a freaking fantastic interview. This was so lovely. I am overwhelmed with how much you gave so much. You totally understood the assignment. I am so excited to edit this and listen back. I want everyone to be able to, so you're going to be filming Lightweight and you're going to be doing things with it. How can people support you? Are you doing like a GoFundMe, or do you have like socials, or how can people help you?
Yes, I am trying to very, very much not spend any money on, because I self-produce my show, and to film it, I don't believe in free labor. So I always pay everybody what they're worth, and then some, I believe. But for this, I'm hoping to raise money to pay a technician and to rent a theater space. But the more I share, the more people are willing to volunteer their services. Which is wonderful. So I'm trying to get a date on the books. It depends on when people are available, but just follow me on my socials, and then that's where I post updates. And for the live tapings, I'm not charging for tickets either, but people will have an option to Venmo a specific charity that I really, really enjoy. It's called Project Heal. If you want to follow them on Instagram at Project Heal. I have no affiliation with them at all. I just am very passionate about the work that they do in the field of eating disorder recovery. Yeah, so follow Project Heal. Anyway, and then follow Lightweight. So on Instagram, it's at Lightweight_show. And on Twitter, it's at Lightweight Show.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Service from Hell, we'd love to have you subscribe, rate, and or review the show wherever you listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled on the art of being kind, and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. If you want to get in touch with us here at Service from Hell directly, send us your receipts to servicefromhellpodcast@gmail.com. We really do love hearing from all y'all. I'm sorry for the emails that I don't get time to respond to, but I read all of them. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thanks, Amie. This was an utter delight. You gave me so much of your time. You gave this audience so much recovery. I am floored at how honest you are. That saves lives.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing that.
Thank you so much. And for anyone listening who's struggling with food right now, probably in like 5 minutes, my slow cooker is going to go off, and I have the most delicious food in there. And food is so fun once you like get out of your own way and start enjoying it. And yeah, so thank you for having me. Thank you so very much.
I love it. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening. Good night.
All right, folks, well, that's going to do it for us here at Service from Hell with part 2 with Amie Enriquez. She is obviously wonderful. You heard her for the last 2 weeks, and she's an open book and shared so honestly and is saving lives with how just genuine she is and how honest she got. So I just couldn't be more thrilled to have gotten the wonderful opportunity to have spoken to her, and it was such a gift, and it was so healing, and I really needed it. And shout out to previous podcast guest Rachel McDowell for putting us in contact with one another. It was such a lovely experience, and I'm really glad I got to have it. I feel really grateful. So thank you folks so much for listening and holding space for kind of a challenging conversation. And we try to still have some chuckles, some yucks, as they say, but, heavy topic. So again, if this is a pain point for you, your family, friends, loved ones, anybody you know, or anybody you've experienced this with, go to eatingdisorderhope.com. And we are not affiliated with them. We do not get any money from them. Don't know really a whole lot about them, but we were told that is a resource that is worthwhile. So hopefully you can take a gander if you yourself need it. My DMs are open. And I really appreciate you all so much for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night.